You ever wondered why some people seem to pick up intuitive animal communication really quickly and easily, while others get stuck or blocked or completely discouraged and quit altogether? Well, I've seen both scenarios happen, and I think this video will explain the difference and empower you to become one of the successful animal communicators if you're finding that you're getting stuck or blocked. If your goal is to become a confident animal communicator, then this video is for you because by the end of this video, you'll be able to understand the process that you go through each time that you set out to achieve a new goal. You'll know the 4 phases of the process, and you'll be able to recognize which phase you're in, know what's required in that phase in order to progress to the next phase. And as a bonus, I'm going to share a 5th phase that makes this formula or this process even more powerful. In fact, I think this is the #1 key to the whole process working. So welcome to Animal Communication with Dr. Cara. Whether you're watching on a YouTube video or on the podcast, my name is Dr. Cara Gubbins. I'm a professional animal communicator, and I am the founder of the Animal Communicator Academy. My mission is to help all animal lovers become confident animal communicators so they can help their pets become a professional animal communicator or add animal communication to their current profession. My vision is to have animal communicators in every home, every veterinarian's office, every animal rescue center, every animal shelter. Basically, wherever there are people and animals together, I want there to be an animal communicator there. So if you support this mission and vision, then please like, subscribe, and hit the bell so we can reach even more animal lovers and animal communicators. Let's dive into this learning process that I think is going to really help you wherever you are in the process of becoming a confident animal communicator. Whether it's a dream, whether you've just started, whether you're somewhere in the middle where you're making progress, but maybe you have some frustrations. So most people who are learning animal communication, intuitive animal communication today are adults. And as adults, learning, let's face it, it's harder. We're not used to not knowing. We're not used to struggling. We don't want to change. We're not used to being challenged. We don't want to do things differently. But we have to in order to get what we want. If what we were already doing was going to work, it would have worked. But we know that we have to do something different in order to get what we want. Business coach Dan Sullivan says that personal confidence comes from making progress towards goals that are far bigger than your present capabilities. So think about that. That applies to anything that's new, whether it's learning a foreign language, running a marathon, earning a master's degree, whatever you want to do, your confidence is going to come from successfully working towards a bigger goal that you have. So if you're an aspiring animal communicator and you want to become a confident animal communicator, that confidence is going to come from making progress towards that goal. And right now, that goal is beyond your current ability. So the reinforcing nature of having successes along the way as you grow and change and learn new things is what builds confidence. The question is, how do we do that? What is the process? Well, Dan Sullivan has come up with or identified the 4 C's formula for success. This is a universal process for anyone to grow into a bigger and better future. I like to say it's a new, improved version of yourself, right? You imagine your future differently and you grow into that. Dan Sullivan, in fact, wrote a book called The 4 C's Formula, and I will have the link in the show notes or in the description below if you're interested in reading the whole book. But The formula, I want to talk about it today in terms of becoming a confident animal communicator, because I think it's really illustrative of the process that I've seen myself and my students go through. And once we know what the structure is that we're operating within, it's a lot easier to navigate it. It's a lot more comfortable. Knowing how uncomfortable we're going to be makes it more comfortable to be uncomfortable. So let's go into those 4 C's in the 4C formula. The first C is commitment. Commitment is critical because it creates your motivation. And the commitment is to something beyond your current abilities. So if you're an animal lover and you want to become an animal communicator, that's beyond your current abilities, right? But when you commit to that, you shift the energy and things start to change. In fact, you start to change. You look at things differently. You take different actions. You have different conversations. You notice things that you wouldn't have otherwise noticed. And the key is committing to something bigger than what you can do now. And that automatically leads you to the second phase, the second C, which is courage. That commitment creates the courage to go for it. Until you're committed, you're going to hesitate, you're going to hem, you're going to haw, you're going to look and see all these other shiny objects or get distracted by things that don't matter as much to you. But when you commit to something, you create courage, and you need that courage because this second phase is really uncomfortable and very challenging. This is the hardest phase, I think, of the whole process because your old way of doing things isn't working and you need to learn new ways, but they haven't been established yet. So you're kind of in this limbo of, I want to do it this way, but that way doesn't work, but I don't really know and have the capacity and have the ability to do this new way of doing things. And so we end up in this weird identity crisis of like, who am I? What am I doing? This is never going to work. It can be very, very discouraging. So the courage stage, you need that commitment to have the courage to stick with it through this phase where you're growing and learning, and it's challenging and uncomfortable. And depending on what you're learning, this phase can take a long time. So I want you to just know that up front. It's not like boom, 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 bada bing, bada boom, I got it. I want to be an animal communicator, and poof, it just happens. There's the real world process that we have to go through of learning new things, being in the world in a new way, and growing and changing. And most of us don't like change or even growth sometimes, to be honest. This phase also requires a lot of practice. So you're going to be practicing new skills, new ways of doing things, new ways of understanding things, seeing yourself differently, seeing the world differently. Whatever your goal is, that's part of the process. But as you do that, as you learn these new skills and abilities, you are going to become more capable in that area. In our case, animal communication. So my students go through these first 4 modules in the Animal Communicator Academy, where they're learning all this new stuff, but it hasn't clicked yet. They haven't mastered it yet. They have new skills, new capabilities, but they're not confident and comfortable with them, and they can't use them that well yet. So you need to keep practicing. As your courage is getting you through that stage of learning these new things, the capability stage is where you have to really keep practicing and refining those abilities. And as you do that, you'll start to have some success, and that's what builds your confidence. So the capability phase builds the confidence because you see what you are now capable of that you weren't capable of before. You see the impact of learning, growing, changing, improving, doing something, and that you've never done before. And you start to trust yourself and you trust your abilities. And that's where confidence comes from. But it's very mushy and it's very challenging. And you really need all of those C's to get through this. You need the commitment, you need the courage, you need the willingness to keep building your capability. And as you do that, the confidence then emerges. And then you are in the phase of confidence, of really knowing I can do this. So that's Dan Sullivan's 4C's formula. And I really, really like it. And I think he kind of skips over a really key point, at least, the way that I see myself and my students and how I've watched them become successful. And so the 5th C that I want to share with you is clarity. This is what comes first. The more clear you can be on your vision of your goal and what you want to achieve, the easier it is to commit to it. And the more that vision will help draw you forward into that future version of you. So having the clarity, that to me sets up the commitment. It's hard to commit to something that you don't know. Like, I'm going to commit to being better. Like, that's very vague. But when you have specificity and clarity, you're like, I'm going to be a confident animal communicator. That's very clear and very specific. And that you can commit to because that's measurable. That's knowable, right? You want something not mushy and vague, but something very clear and specific. So to me, the first C is actually clarity. And I want to share with you my story of becoming a confident animal communicator and how I moved through all of these phases and how long it took, because it was not overnight, I guarantee you that. So my story begins when I was driving north on Highway 1 in West Marin in California. And I was just finishing up my PhD program in biology. And I was driving along. I love this stretch of highway. It's beautiful. It's rolling hills. I was, kind of in my happy place driving there. It was beautiful. And I saw horses in a field. And there was nothing special about these horses. They were just horses in a field. I'd seen them there 1,000 times before. But this time I started crying. And I didn't know why I was crying, but I just had this immense sadness inside of me that I would never be able to know what it was like to be them, what their life was like. I wanted to be able to communicate with them and understand them. And so I kept driving as I'm crying and going, why am I crying? And over the miles driving on this narrow winding road through California, I gradually remembered that I had had a dream of becoming an animal communicator when I was a kid. When I was, I don't know, kindergarten, first grade, I'm not sure, somewhere in there. And my dream came because I saw the movie Dr. Dolittle with Rex Harrison, and he was talking to the animals, walking with the animals. And I was like, that's what I want. And I had put away that dream. Well, number one, because I was told that it wasn't real, that was making things up, and I needed to get a real dream. And so I dreamed of being a marine biologist. So I spent my whole life up until this point, I was finishing my PhD. So I had gone through, elementary school, middle school, high school, college, master's degree, PhD, all with this dream of becoming a marine biologist. And here I was about to graduate. I had turned in my PhD dissertation. I had studied dolphin behavior in the wild, like I was really doing it. And I was on the verge of this big accomplishment. And what came back to me was this childhood dream of being an animal communicator. And I realized that was what I really wanted. I want that. I want to be an animal communicator. And when that dream came back to me as an adult, because I was now in my 30s, um, I immediately said yes to it. So I personally went from the clarity of that's what I want to the commitment. I committed to myself and my dream in my heart in that moment. I was like, yes, this is my next step. This is what I'm going to do. So I want you to understand that that commitment is an internal process. It has to be organic. It has to be meaningful to you to make it real. It can't be somebody telling you what to do. It has to be a commitment to yourself. So those two phases for me went very quickly. Then it took 10 years for me to make it to the next phase because I was operating under the misunderstanding that you were either born with that ability or you just didn't have it and it wasn't available. So there I was with my commitment, but I had no idea how to make my dream come true. And it took me many, many years to take the next step because I was feeling powerless. I was feeling clueless. I was feeling incompetent. And if I'm being honest, I was feeling like I was a little bit crazy because here I had committed to something that wasn't possible, but my heart knew it was possible. And I committed to that dream in my heart. And so what happened over those 10 years is I started a family. I moved from one side of the country to the other side of the country. I started teaching college biology, all of these things, but this dream stayed with me. This commitment stayed with me. And about 10 years later, I was like, now it's time. My kids are in school. I'm, in a place where I can do this. And I started talking to people very fearfully at first because I was afraid that I was going to be rejected, that I was going to be judged, that I would be laughed at, that I would be called crazy. And I was really afraid that it wasn't actually possible, that I would really, truly fail because it was not possible for me. But this was my courage phase, right? This was where I had to say, yes, I'm going to try. I'm going to risk. I'm going to put myself out there. And yes, some of my family members thought I was crazy, like almost literally thought I was crazy. But whole other story. Anyways, what happened was that I started to find ways forward. So for me, my next step was to get a master's degree in spiritual psychology because they said we help you make your dream come true. And I was like, well, I have this crazy dream. It's not coming true on its own. I don't know what else to do. I'm at the end of what I know how to do. I have to do something different. And so if you can help me make this dream come true, then sign me up because I was still committed to making this dream come true. And so I signed up for a master's degree program in spiritual psychology just so I could make my dream of animal communication come true. And once I did that, I realized I knew I had intuitive ability, but I hadn't really ever focused on it or created any accountability or practice. And so I signed up for a 1-year psychic program. So I would get that intuitive training and have that accountability. This was my capability phase. Do you see how I'm learning new skills? I'm learning more intuitive skills. I'm practicing, I'm strengthening them. I'm, learning the spiritual psychology skills, the mindset skills. And so I spent a little over a year in that capability phase, just learning the ropes of how does my intuition work? How does the mindset work? Where's the mindset holding me back? How do I clear that? How do I move forward? All of that. So that's what brought me into my confidence phase because growing my intuitive abilities, I was getting feedback on that and I was getting good at that. And growing my mindset skills, I was also getting good at that. And I put the two together and had my breakthrough animal communication session with my friend's dog, Bear. And that was what I really needed. I was just that capability of just going and going and going. It was over a year of practicing both of these areas that combination finally clicked, and I had my breakthrough with Bear. And then I kept practicing for another year before I felt ready to start charging money and working as a professional. So I had a whole year of training every week, 6 hours a week, because it was part of my master's program. I would practice animal communication. And I practiced with friends and I practiced with strangers. And I put all of these pieces together. And with every success, my confidence grew. With every practice session, my confidence grew. So my whole story of going through these phases lasts a dozen years. It doesn't have to, thankfully. That's just my path. That's the way that I went. But it's very clear to me how these phases worked in order. And for me, that vision and that commitment I made to myself, that's what kept moving me forward, knowing where I was going, seeing the final product of what I wanted to achieve. So now I've created the Animal Communicator Academy, and I've had almost 200 students go through this program, and a couple hundred before that, before I created the academy in my other classes. And so I've watched them go through this process as well. And the thing about learning animal communication is that, let me just recap the phases, right? So clarity, commitment, courage, capability, confidence. Now it's 5 phases because I added mine in there. But that courage phase for me lasted a very long time, right? About 11 years, honestly. And in my students, I see that as well, that courage phase, getting you through all of the practice before you have your breakthrough animal communication session. That can be several months, even up to, I haven't seen this, but it could be up to a year. So I haven't seen that with any of my students. When they're in the academy, they typically have that breakthrough animal communication session within 6 to 8 months. But it's different for everybody, and there's a lot of variability there. So it can be very discouraging to be working towards something without any reinforcement, without any successes, without knowing that you're making progress. And so it really does require a lot of courage to stick with it. And hopefully that overlaps with the capability phase, because you are learning the skills that you're going to need, that you're going to use as an intuitive animal communicator. But once you have that breakthrough, it's a lot easier to move through the capability phase, where you're building on your success and you're working into the confidence phase. And really, before anybody joins my program, they have to have that vision of what they want, and they have to commit to it. So once you're in my program, you've already got the clarity and the commitment, and you've put yourself into the courage stage, right? Without really knowing that. And so I really want, if you're a student anywhere with any teacher, I want you to understand that that courage phase lasts for several months. And you just have to keep going and keep going, even if you haven't yet gotten any feedback that you're making progress. The progress is happening on the inside, even if you don't see it on the outside. So for different goals, the phases of the 4C formula will last different lengths of time. Becoming a confident animal communicator can take a few years. And so the courage and the capability phases are going to correspond to that longer period, and be longer than a simple goal like learning how to change the oil in your car. So I want to create that context for you, because no matter where you are in that process, I want you to be able to recognize it and understand what it takes to be successful and to move into the next phase. And I really do think that having that clear vision is one of the keys, and the commitment to yourself is priceless. So Let's check in with you now, see where this is landing. Do you have a clear vision about where you want to go, become a confident animal communicator, or whatever other goal it is? Have you made that commitment to yourself? Have you made that commitment in your heart? And if you have, are you now in that messy part that requires courage, where you just have to keep showing up, right? Or are you starting to feel more capable? Are you maybe having successes with some of those skills and abilities? Or maybe are you gaining some confidence, but you're not 100% confident yet? Which phase are you in? Wherever you are, I really believe that having that clear goal, having that clarity is the linchpin for this formula to work for you. So if you don't have one, I really invite you to create a clear vision of what you want. You can write it down, draw a picture, create a vision board, imagine how it would feel to be that. Whatever it is that helps you really identify who you want to be in your future. And then when you hit a road bump, when you feel discouraged, having that clarity is going to keep you going. It's your future calling you forward into it. And it can be your touchstone, sorry, at any phase of the process. And it will help you to recommit, face your challenges, get through them, keep practicing, keep improving, become more capable in a new area, and gain confidence. So I hope this is illuminating and helpful for you. And if it is, just a reminder, like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, all those things so that you stay in touch with me and new videos. And if there is an animal communication topic that you'd like me to address, please let me know in the comments and I will make another video / podcast episode about that. And if you have your clarity and you have your commitment and you're just looking for in your courage phase for where do you get the capability, well, please join me in the Animal Communicator Academy and become a confident animal communicator. I would love to be your mentor. And you can get more information about that at my website, caragubbins.com/ACA. Here's to your success and moving on to the next phase in your path to become a confident animal communicator. See you next time.